Hey, we have a great show planned, but unfortunately, our guest cannot be on camera. Why? Why do you ask? Can this fabulous woman not be on camera? Because
we're a shit show. We are a shit show. Because we talk about boob sex and anal sex and vagina sex, and she is, honest to God, a respected member of our community and can't be on camera because we would totally ruin her fucking reputation.
That's right. But
we don't care about our own. We have no reputation.
Ours don't matter. But we're going to have a great time tonight, and you're going to learn, hopefully, a ton. And I know that some of you liked the promotion posts, which means you're looking for this kind of relationship. We have Mistress Kayla here in the studio. Say hello, Mistress Kayla, please.
Good evening, everybody.
I have to say please because she's Mistress Kayla. So, you know how that works. And she's
but
just
I don't have to because you're not my mistress. Right?
Correct.
Before we get to the interview portion with her, there's a couple of things that we need to talk about. First off, Toxie messaged us this afternoon because some people pissed her the fuck off.
Right the fuck off.
So, somebody, I have some friends who are huge Trump supporters. Huge. And that's cool. That's cool.
I do want to ask, how are they still your friends?
Because I can like an individual and not agree with their beliefs.
Okay.
And I can still be friends with somebody that, like, our beliefs don't have to align. And sometimes I like to hear what other people think. Like, I like their point. But
that is very worldly of you, by the way.
But sometimes their point pisses me the fuck off to where, like, I feel actual anger. And that's what happened today.
Right.
So somebody posted a photo of Britney Spears in 2002 or something, smashing a car window with an umbrella back when she had a mental breakdown, and said that it was Emma Gonzalez smashing a vehicle of a Second Amendment, pro-fighter.
While they were marching.
While they were marching at the March for Our Lives.
Right.
So it was totally posted as kind of as a fact. And immediately I'm like, that's Britney Spears, right?
From 10 years ago, bitches.
Right, and it's obvious. And later I find out this person knew that, the one who posted it. Like, she posted it kind of as a joke, even though she normally posts, very pro-Trump posts. But immediately someone commented, I would... I forget the exact words.
Locked her up or something?
No, I would shoot that bitch for destruction of property. And I'm like, well, good luck explaining that one, considering it was Britney Spears having a mental breakdown.
I saw your comment afterwards. You would shoot Britney Spears when she's having a mental breakdown? What is wrong with you?
Who was that guy back when she was having her breakdown? And it was Perez Hilton, wasn't it? It was like, leave Britney alone.
No, that's Chris Crocker. I follow Chris Crocker to this day. And he is amazeballs. If you're not following Chris Crocker, do it. He's adorable, lives with his grandmother, in bumfuck somewhere. And he's just as cute as can be. So and this funny, he's hilarious.
One of the reasons we keep Toxie around is because she is so up to the minute on pop culture. Because I did not even know it was Britney Spears when I saw the picture.
Yeah, no, totally. Immediately. It's
unless you want to know the differences between 4th edition and 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. You would be the expert on that. And I can tell you the difference between insular majuscule and insular minuscule. So there we go.
And I can tell all the members of Hanson apart. And
all 3 of those girls.
I always get my little brother used to have long blonde hair, and I would always call him the middle Hanson child.
The 4th Hanson.
All right, so my thing today was I went to go do a social media post, a secondary one for our guest tonight. So the first one you saw was the logo for Club Femme Vegas, right? Mm-hmm. And I wanted a picture of a woman boss. And the line was going to be, our guest is going to show everyone who's boss tonight. So I type in boss. I go to Google Images, and guess what shows up?
What?
Nothing but men. Men and babies.
Because of Boss Baby.
Right.
Oh, that makes sense.
But it was, I swear to God, I scrolled, and you know how when you get down to the bottom of an image search and it says show more, the little button that says show more, so you click it? Men. Not a single female boss at all.
Well, no, of course not. Women can't be bosses.
Right?
Oh, yes.
Fucking Google.
Oh, no, that was a hard eye roll. Like, I injured a muscle back here. I injured my intermuscular minuscule sans serif back here. It was a dig at my calligrapher friend down there.
And it wasn't until I actually had to type in female boss to get a picture of a woman. And then my internet died, so I couldn't make the post. So that was my complaint today. Google is perpetuating the myth that only men can be bosses.
Damn you, Google.
Right?
And I loved you.
Google is evil, even though isn't their credo, don't be evil?
Do no evil.
Do
Yeah.
no evil?
No, that's a doctor.
No, that's do no harm. They can be evil, they just can't harm you.
Right.
House. Who, by the way, my favorite. Total douchebag.
Nice.
I want to give a shout out to CJ who's in chat. CJ, I know that you did. I was hoping that we could be your virginal dive into podcasting and being interviewed as an author. But we do want you on the show. Toxie actually mentioned it, and she would love to have you on the show. So we're going to get Sierra to download your book so she can read it, and then we can talk to you about it. Because she's the reader. She's the reader.
I just started a new book.
I just read
Well, then
different
you
books
can
for
read
you
it.
guys.
Hers is like a romance kind of. I think there's a werewolf involved.
Yeah, so
and,
she'll read it and then share it with us.
yeah. You don't
I'm
read?
just kidding. I read all the time. I read courtroom drama.
Oh, so you don't do
Legal
fantasy,
thrillers.
any kind of fantasy?
The only
or
one, I mean, I've read all
horror
of
or-
Twilight and
You read all the Twilights?
yeah, multiple times.
Well, I'll never
50
admit that I
Shades
have
of Grey.
also read all of the Twilights.
Are you a reader, Mr. Scala?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
do you
kind
read?
of?
Well, I like detective stories, and I like mysteries, and they're solving, and I don't go for the romance kind of. In fact, it was funny. A new submissive had come up to me, and it was a female submissive. I was at a mixed event, and she's like, and I read this story, and it was about a girl, and her car broke down, and the only place open in the mud-soaked road was a BDSM club. I mean, so I centered a more realistic reading on the subject, but I found that amusing at that time.
When I was a lot younger and totally into reading, like was it Playboy that had the forum? Penthouse, the Penthouse forum magazines. I delved into those novels, those kinds of novels that dealt with
It's called erotica.
the erotica thing. And it was always about, and the BDSM, I was kind of into it when I was younger. I guess I'm still into it if I find the right person. But it was always about this poor little girl, who found herself because she found a dom or whatever that took her to places she could never go, and then she became the boss bitch after that. It was always that story. I've never seen one that was completely different than that.
Because
Well,
nobody wants a story.
I'm
different
here.
than that.
I'm here to break that mold. I can tell you that I grew up in a first generation, American household, and women didn't get educated. They didn't drive. They stayed home. They had families. And I said, and my father would just lament. His lament was, I don't understand. I tell your sister something, and it's yes. And then I tell you something, and you're like, wait a minute. And I did all the things, that I got educated. I drove a standard shift. I started and run a successful business, which is why I'm now on camera. And I realized that I just didn't fit that mold. But as I began to explore the lifestyle, I started as a submissive, and I was probably the world's worst submissive. I made many a master cry or throw his hands up. And one day, a friend of mine who was a client at my business who wanted to go out with me said, I would want you to dominate me. And I just said, why? And he goes, no, you'd be really great. And he took me away to an event, which if you want me to tell it now or I'll tell it later.
Oh, now's fine.
Well, we went to an event which is held every May in L.A., but there's also another one in October, the same name, called DomCon.
DomCon, DOMCON.
You're making notes,
And we
right?
went,
Okay.
and we will be there again this year with a bunch of the Club Femme ladies. And my quote-unquote friend or submissive, okay, which is different toxie than a slave, behaved so poorly. I mean, he left me standing at a dinner with several of the more well-known mistresses in the country. And I luckily had a crock with me, and I just whacked him right at the table. And the best part was the mistresses didn't miss a beat. They're like, pass the bread, got butter, salt, you know. And he continued, and I finally warned him that if he continued to misbehave and embarrass me, I would correct it. And he kind of laughed me off, like, what are you going to do?
Fucking brats.
And, yeah, and I said, you are underestimating the power of sisterhood. And I did not know how true those words were because I went to a mistress's social where they didn't let the men in. And immediately upon entering, the mistresses that were at the dinner that night converged on me and said, what is wrong with your submissive? He's terrible. I said, ladies, I need your help. And the next thing you know, he was up on the stage being publicly disciplined by several of the better-known dominatrixes across my knee getting a spanking, and he was lucky that's all he got. They were really out for blood. And it was called a board of corrections, and he never quite got over that, and his behavior didn't improve, so exit submissive.
I was going to say.
I would like you all to know that my nipples got hard during this conversation.
And
totally turned on by
and
the idea of having a whole bevy of mistresses just walk by and smack my ass through bright red.
In front of an audience. This was in front of an audience,
In front of
correct?
an audience?
Several hundred people up on the stage, yes.
I wouldn't have been a brat to get it. I would have just asked nicely, can I please?
And probably you might have with me, but this was truly meant to be humiliating. He was nude, in front of several hundred people, crawling across, kissing all our feet. And I never looked back after that, but what I remembered when I got home after I wrote thank you notes to all of these ladies, many of whom I'm still friends with, was that the mistress who organized the Board of Corrections was Ella Strickland, who is the international headmistress of Club Femme. And I was in the Vegas community, and I saw that while there is another femdom group, they are not restricted to femdoms, male subs. And I wanted that. And Club Femme operates on a safety and vetting and strictly femdom male sub role when you're at the group. And I really liked that. And I loved the fact that I was there for 5 days at this event, and the women came together. There was none of this cattiness or backbiting, and
my sub is better than your sub.
Right. It was really lovely, and I wanted to recreate that here. And it was a little slow going, but we have a really wonderful group of ladies, and we're all friends, and the mistresses come in all different shapes and sizes and colors and levels of experience, and we have friendships. We'll go have lunch. The funny thing is not to get invited to brunch at my house because someone's getting their ass handed to them. But someone's in trouble for that because I did have one punishment session that the sub never expected to see coming. But that's another story.
You do a lot of teaching.
Yes.
Women who want to get into the femdom lifestyle. Your group can teach a new dom.
Yes.
As it were.
It was really interesting. Our more experienced ladies will teach the lesser experienced. Like one mistress may be excellent with a whip, or I'll go out and meet someone and say, would you come to our group and teach XYZ? Or, there are other educational groups in town that I'll encourage when we get a new boy, and a lot of times they're like what I call sub-frenzy, they're dying to do things and learn things, and I'll send them to these shows.
Did you say sub frenzy?
Frenzy. Sub Frenzy. They are so excited.
Oh, the subs are frenzies.
Right, Sub Frenzy. The subs are
Okay.
having like an unquenchable excitement and desire to
Because
learn.
I can
and
see
it's
a
Sub
lemonade
Frenzy.
group of women, sipping their lemonade, get, a new sub, going into a frenzy.
We do like our new subs, but that's we reserve that for the party, or sometimes we plan things like my sub who's sitting there, who's very quiet right now, is he worries because I told him early on that this isn't something I do on the weekend. I live this life. I mean, obviously I'm not dominating people at work, but
Get your work done,
I
bitch.
I am in charge, and I explained that I'm used to running things and having things the way I want them, and I'll make it work out, within reason. And my girlfriends are of that nature, and after a long day, we like to be served by a man, and we're not there to humiliate them unless it's in the course of play, but we do enjoy, the adoration and servitude of a man. And so it's funny, one of the new mistresses I told him is coming in happens to be, and our members these are not, I've yet to see a BDSM movie where there isn't some terribly disturbed person practicing this. And our members come from good homes, and we're not like orphans or laying on the street or helpless,
Or just out of a mental institution.
right.
Although honestly, that was
Batman.
one of the hottest
Batman.
ones.
A lot of that, though, is because of the careful vetting that your group does.
Yes.
For both sides,
Yes.
both DOMs and subs.
Absolutely.
We've had lengthy conversations about this, and you know how we vet for a group that we're in?
Mm-hmm.
It's like doubly, and which is awesome. I love the fact that you do so much vetting. So could you, if you don't mind, explain the vetting process
Okay.
for a new sub? So let's say a young guy comes along and
Or a
wants to be-
mistress, whichever. We have something I call the meet and mingles, but it's really a munch, which is a lifestyle event where they get together, they munch something, and they talk. Okay, so we don't even announce because this is, a lot of our people are from different walks of life. They're business owners, doctors, lawyers, Indians, whatever, candlestick makers, whatever. And they don't want people to know where they're going or where this is or they're going to that place. It's public if they're seen going in. And I found a very reasonable manager of a local place and so only when you say I'm coming to this event where it's announced, we announce it on a group called FetLife, then a few days before we tell you what the address is. And we have specific rules. You've got to come dressed in business attire. You can't be coming in cutoffs or ridiculous things or fetish wear.
And that's, just so you know, that's the first way they vet, is if you can follow instructions.
Right.
I've been to a couple of munches where it's like streetwear only, no obvious collars, no
Exactly.
no fetish wear, no pins, no prides,
No.
none of that
None
stuff.
of that.
You just got to show up.
So
if they come in gear, are you like, just get out of here?
we'll
You're done.
we'll have someone quietly tell them to come back another time. It's men collared shirts, slacks, or jeans, no holes in them. No obvious collars. The women are in dresses or slacks or whatever. It's, you're not going to be wearing your cutoffs. Only once the air conditioning was broken and all the men rejoiced they got to wear shorts that night, but it was summer. So we do that, and then they come to the munch. And what I do is, usually when we're having monthly parties, I arrange it so that the munch is on the first Saturday and a party is much later. So they've got a whole, the munch is like on the second Tuesday of every month, the second Tuesday, but a party would be on the first weekend of the month. So they've got a whole month to decide if they want to vet in or whatever, so there's no mad dash. And we give them a questionnaire, and they've got to give us their real name and birthday. And if, you're coming in Vegas is not like LA or other towns where there are illegal dungeons. And so you're coming into someone's home for the most part. Occasionally someone has a rented space, but that, I don't know how well that's going to hold up to, police searches or whatever. So 99% of the parties are being held in private homes. So people are letting people into their homes, and they sure want to know who's coming in. So plus you're picking up an implement and hitting somebody with it, or tying somebody up, or or maybe using electricity on them, or things like that. So
one of the things that I learned from Mistress Kayla is that BDSM and most of what it entails, the whole hitting of people, is illegal in Nevada.
Yeah.
I was wondering that just
yes,
now.
the act, you cannot consent.
Yeah, you can't consent to have your ass beat,
So,
even though you can.
but we once you fill that out, what we'll do is we will run a background check, a very cursory. We don't have an agent checking out your background like the, but I do look.
Actually, yes,
see.
they do. Just so you know.
So
No, they have a seer on their team.
we do look to see if there have been domestic violence, financial crimes, child molestation, things like
Anger
that
management
nature.
classes.
Right, things like that. And then beyond that, we have an executive mistress, okay, who I'm not the sole decision maker, because then it would just, I never wanted to be the sole decision maker. She exchanges a few emails with whomever it is, be it mistress or submissive, and to make sure that they are reasonable people. And they could be mundane questions, completely just to see if they think things through or whatever. And she'll get back to me, and that's Miss Karen in our group. And she will say, yes, they're fine, go ahead and finish the vetting process. And by then I found out they're not, an axe murderer. And I'll go out usually for either a cup of coffee, or in one case, sometimes it's dinner or lunch or whatever the time allows, and I'll talk to the person. And they're online when they meet me, I'm a little unapproachable because I'm busy. I mean, men will write me, 20 letters a day if I let them. And then we have an at-length conversation, and that usually entails, what are you looking for, what do you expect to get out of this, and that kind of thing. And that has been pretty successful, because when we vet people in, we've only had two people that we have vetted in that we've asked to leave in the entire time we've had Club Femme.
So do you vet in people and then do you play matchmaker? Like
No.
So they just kind of end up gravitating towards each other, whoever ends up with whoever? Is it kind of like a free-for-all?
Our parties are interesting, at least the ones that I have, and I'll go down my list. You want to go down the list of questions?
She wants to ask.
Yeah, okay.
I see.
Yes.
So someone here, not mentioning any names, is not as familiar with the BDSM
Okay.
world, other than what they may or may not have learned on the show. So
Or have seen in person.
or have seen in person. So someone might have been busy on Google, and somebody might have to clear their browser history when they get home.
It's not me. I've already warned my kid.
So let's see here. Do you run, like, when you have an event, do you plan specific scenarios? Like, do you know going in that it's going to be like, this is a housekeeper scenario, or this is I'm your boss scenario, or we're going in and doing this scene?
It depends. It depends. A Club Femme party is not a heavy scene, okay? Let me clarify this, and this is, when I speak, I'm speaking of Club Femme Las Vegas chapter, but I am friendly with many mistresses throughout the country as well in other chapters.
Before you get into this,
Yes.
everybody should know that Club Femme is a worldwide, is it worldwide or nationwide?
Worldwide.
Worldwide organization that you can join. You will be vetted in your area to join, but it's a private social club, but you have chapters in cities all over the country and all over the world.
Absolutely. And what happened is when we have a party, it's almost like, picture a tasting at a restaurant. So you might, like, I like to play with electricity, a violet wand, quite a bit. So anytime, Sierra.
Are your nipples hard again?
Yes, they are.
So
Shot collar and a.
I'll do it. Why don't we have one every week?
So it remind me to tell you the funny story about the new submissive that was terrified of everything and how it
That
ended
would
up.
be me.
But
You want a what? With my what?
So we will have mistresses that like to do different things. Now, in a lot of BDSM parties I've been to, sometimes one couple will play and then another couple will play, but for some reason everyone must feel really comfortable when I hold a party, and it's kind of like an orgy with no sex. I've never seen everybody converge and begin to play all at once. So I therefore cannot watch everything. So usually at least one sub is kind of like watching, or another mistress is watching, or if we have a new sub that night, I have a rule for new subs, and I want to explain how our play works as well. If I have a new sub, I will tell them, you don't have to play. Like when my boy was new, he was like, I don't think I want to play at the first party. I said, that's fine. And I've had many a boy go, I'm really excited about this, but I'm scared. So I said, that's fine. You can stand next to me, or you can stand next to the mistress. And what we have at our parties is after dinner and after some instruction, we have these things called pink ribbons. And if a boy wants to put a pink ribbon on, and we call our men boys at the party because they're submissive, and we put a pink ribbon on them. Now, some of the boys take this to heart. We've got one that wears a great big pink collar and pink G-string and, the whole thing, and he's just, I'm pink, he's ready to go.
God bless my soul.
And then, and we put a pink ribbon on them, and then we know they're available. If they are not wearing a pink ribbon, it means that they're not available to play at large. You might ask their mistress, but generally that means they're not open to play, or that kind of thing. It is in very bad taste to touch another woman's sub or toys or whatever without permission. So we do that, and it's light play. It's one time for fun, to give you an answer, we set up stations, and every 15 minutes, we had a guitar player, he'd go, it's like time to stop.
Musical chair.
And
Turn the page now.
So you can swap on occasion, like if it's something you're open to, like switch.
we're not having sex. So
Yeah, they're not having sex.
Well, I don't. But if you're doing something with,
So
can your sub go to another
if I
mistress?
put a pink ribbon, absolutely. What's he going to do? I'm in the same room, So.
and you're stationary with your wand. Your
Correct.
violet wand,
usually.
while the mistress next to you has the crop, and the mistress next to her has the paddle.
Right, or a
Right?
whip, or whatever
And then
it is.
they kind of just...
Or I happen to put out my toys at the party, and if a mistress wants to try a violet wand because she's thinking about buying one or hasn't ever used one on her boy, I have several different attachments, and that works out really well. What else? What do you have? She's got a list.
Vendetta says, this is amazing. And William says, just wait till she starts talking about hot candle wax.
We do have wax play. We had a great wax play party. It was really fun.
To clarify, it's not normal wax, or at least
it's
a specialty candle with specialty wax.
Yes.
Melts at a lower temperature, so you're not getting third-degree fucking burns while you have fun.
Yes, we are safety-minded. We take... have you ever seen those wax baths that you could stick your hand in?
Like a
Yes.
paraffin bath.
Right. And I've learned from a mistress that specializes in wax. I've watched her a few times before I decided, hey, come over here, And it's this nice clear wax, and what you do is it melts, and then you can course. You better put a lot of visqueen down, I'll tell you what, because that stuff splatters. But you ladle it out onto the sub. So now he's got this layer of clear wax, and then you can begin to put the other. But I really only use these specialty candles made for that, because a burn, you really don't want to, what is it, you want to hurt them, you don't want to harm them. We want them to come back and play again. So.
Well, will it pull off their hair when you remove the wax? So it's
Yes,
like double?
We had one we had one sub that one of our mistresses affectionately named Fuzzy.
Like, could I come and try and get a free Brazilian? That's all I'm asking. That's just what I'm asking.
It was really rough. We were cutting the wax off of him. I finally sent him upstairs for a hot shower and to try and shower up the rest of the wax, Some of our boys are hairless, which is really nice, and if they've shaved down or whatever, so it makes it a little easier. But this guy had the full bush going, and it was pretty ugly.
The elbows, just hairy.
We have a question from one of our viewers on Facebook. He says, "Is there any race play? I have been dipping my toe into it lately, and I'm curious."
Right? We have a race play. I'm not sure he understands. We have a young black sub at our group, and he's darling. We love him, and he's just precious. And we've had black mistresses, but we don't get into master slave race kind of thing. We don't. Most of our scenes are very superficial, and they're set up to kind of chill and burn off a little steam, and maybe get to know that new person, and try new things. Like probably the funniest story happened to me. I had a new sub that wanted desperately to play with me, and it was one of our early parties when we first started the chapter. And I had a metal corset on, and it was all silver threads in, and I wanted to be comfortable, so I kicked off my shoes, picked up my violet wand, and I had the body contact going, and completely lit myself up. The corset went. And the sub, being a little imp that he was, all 6'5" of him, looked down at me, and said, "I didn't feel anything. Do it again." Fortunately, our assistant mistress, our executive mistress, said, "Go put some rubber-soled shoes on, dear." And she caught what was happening before But yes, I got that going right through my whole body, of course. And I fixed that later, trust me. But
it's a way to get to get to understand the tools that a mistress to understand the tools
also
that she would be using.
Also, don't restart someone's heart if they
Well, we do have some boys that we can't do electricity on, and but there's other things, so that's kind of where that's at.
So you could actually learn quite a bit going to one of these parties if you make it through the vetting.
Right. Our next munch is April 10th. If you want to be a dominatrix, we actually had a husband-wife come. And this was a great story, and it's still in progress. The husband traveled a lot internationally for work, and he wanted his beautiful wife to be a dominatrix. And Club Femme has some very strict rules about membership, and it's worked because we've wound up with quality people. But consequently, we're friends with a male dom group here in town that has the same strict rules and so,
do you guys get together and fight like
no,
like West Side Story? Yeah.
Actually,
is it like a West Side Story deal?
We're very good friends, actually, and what happened was
musical theater nerds that they had.
Right. So we wound up. I met her at his munch, as a matter of fact. He said, "I want you to meet this mistress," and she's and so I met the husband. He goes, "I really want her to be tougher." And my question to the married couple were, are you comfortable watching your wife with another man who's semi-dressed or completely undressed? Some of our men are completely nude at our parties. And he said yes, He says, "I'm going out of town for 6 months," or whatever the time was, "and I want you to, train your ladies to train her in different things." And I said, "She comes back, she'll be wearing a leather cat suit, no problem." And we had her in, and this woman has taken to it like a duck to water. And to the point where several of the guys are like, "She's really a sadist at heart,"
My kind of girl.
So she's really been doing wonderfully, and she's friends with another experienced mistress who's pretty sadistic, and we love her.
You said the story is ongoing, so is the husband still out of town?
Well, he's back. He had a work injury,
okay.
But I'm sure he'll be coming out to play. In fact, she was at lunch the other day with one of our other mistresses that I'm friendly with, and picking her brain on what she could do to be sadistic, which sent my boy into, just terror. Wait, are they coming to lunch afterwards or what? So, but it was a pretty funny story when you said learning new things. But so what are your other questions?
Yes.
Just to share.
We don't have much time, so let's power through these.
I feel like at first I would, if I gave it a shot, I would be the one who was like, I'd like you to sit, please. Like, I have this soft, like, high-pitched voice.
She'd be like that for about one day. The very next day, she would show up in the leather cat suit and my bullwhip and, whoosh, bitches, I'm alive!
No, you do not. No, that has its place. In fact, our executive mistress has complained that I smile too much at the boys. But I'm smiling as I'm zapping them with that violet wand, with the devil's tongue, the neoprene devil's tongue to the violet. Didn't I tell you? That big smile on my face. And, it's
I
just
smile
much more.
when I'm eating ice cream, too.
Right.
So, I mean, this is delicious.
So, what's the strangest, I'm assuming they're safe words.
Mm-hmm.
What's the strangest safe word?
Well, just to keep it clear at Club Femme, we use the red, yellow, green.
Okay.
Green means everything's fine. If I've got a new guy, what we'll do is I'll tell them, and I usually talk to them ahead, and I'll say after the party, I want to hear from you for 3 days straight because of a lot of them experience this after space kind of thing, or
euphoria.
Euphoria, but then maybe, oh my God, I did what?
Subspace is a really trippy thing.
Subspace?
Well, it doesn't even that they're going to be in subspace at the party, but it's the idea that, a lot of these guys are men's men, they're military, they're cops, they're this, they're that, whatever it is, and own companies, and they come in and, here they are, they've all stripped down, it's the great equalizer, they're serving us all, and they're doing all the things they really wanted to do but were afraid to ever do. And they go home and they go, did I just wear those frilly panties? Oh my God. I bent over and let her spank me. And I said, thank you. But they really do enjoy it. Or they enjoy, we have one sub that enjoys plastic wrap. And I've never seen anyone smile quite so broadly when he's imitating a sandwich. I mean,
Is he a spicy Italian? Tuna.
All right, what else? Safe word. That's right.
Safe word. So so we tell them, what I do, because just in case, I have every mistress, even though they're wearing a pink collar, not to dive into play, to greet them and say, is there anything I should know about tonight? Meaning, did you pull a muscle this week at work? Is there something new? Did something wonky come back in your blood test? Is your blood pressure up? So that we know what's going on. And we tell them, green, we remind them green is fine, yellow is, things are getting a little weird. We will not get mad if you yell red, but all play stops, and we're probably going to be looking to call 911, and we won't mind doing it. So red is, I'm bleeding out of various openings I shouldn't be, and things like that.
Have you ever had to call 911 at one of their parties?
No, thank goodness. We're very strict about health issues, and I've let it be known after I did play with a sub that belonged to another mistress that hid the fact that he was on blood thinners from me, and I noticed a bunch of really angry red stripes coming up pretty quickly during our play, that this, in spite of me not striking very hard, I just said, if you ever do that again, if anything's ever hidden from me, you're instantly gone from my site in Club Femme. I mean, that would be, that's not, lying is not permitted. Yeah.
As much as I know the great visuals you're getting from this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm getting great visuals too, but now what I see is a sub standing in the corner holding one of those little signs that says 0 days since our last 911 call.
Well, I feel like, you already have the electricity. So if there's ever like a heart issue or something, you're right there.
No, we're going to call
you're
the
right there,
professional
right?
Like, well, we actually we usually have a
an
couple of
AED.
medical professionals.
I was going to say someone there's
around
got to
us,
be a
and-
doctor. Or...
Right, we've got some medical professionals or people that are trained in rescue due to their jobs, and we've always got more than one medical kit nearby. Fortunately, we've not. We had one incident that was, and again, I couldn't watch. It was the most innocent thing. I've got the worst toys of the bunch. The boys cringe when they see some of my things, and
I'm giddy with excitement.
My little white cane, the evil white cane they call it. I have a very long, thin white cane. And in fact, I'm doing a voiceover in a femdom cartoon that's coming out. And the character has a white cane, and it's just funny. But we had a mistress taking a wooden spoon to a sub. And all of a sudden I saw her flying past me to the kitchen. I was in the middle of something with my sub, and she's getting ice, and I said, oh, she's going to do some sensation play, huh? And what I didn't realize was she had broken the wooden spoon across the sub and had raised a huge hematoma.
Oh, no.
Fortunately, he was okay, and everything was wonderful because he did bring her a new spoon at our Christmas party, so...
I'm sorry I broke your spoon, mistress.
Our resident author says, information for a future book, thanks.
Oh, my goodness. Tell her she's welcome to pick our brains.
So, what is, and again, I pulled some of these terms and stuff, findom, is that, is it done for findom, for pleasure?
Well, I'm not a findom and I'm not a pro-dom. We have had pro-doms in Club Femme, and that is permitted. You are not allowed in our group or any Club Femme group to hawk your wares, sell products, whether they're lifestyle or not, or if you're a pro-dom, sell your services. However, we have a lot of our, we had one sub that I knew couldn't talk to his mistress or his wife. And it's been various situations, and they might go to a pro-dom, or maybe bring their wife to that woman. You know, so they do have their place, and it's good that we know a pro-dom, because sometimes we'll send. We had one gentleman come and see us, and he was married, and we don't let cheating spouses in. I really don't want an angry wife coming to see me. Or a detective hanging outside one of our parties. So we said, you might want the services of a pro, or we'll have guys want specific things. And I said, I'm not a fetish dispenser. I expend a lot
That's
of
a hashtag.
energy.
Hashtag
I
fetish
expend
dispenser.
a lot of energy when I play with someone. And people think it's a little strange, but if you know me, you cannot come up behind me and I don't touch you easily. That's a transfer of energy of sorts, and I don't like to. And when I play with you, I'm expending not only my knowledge and making sure you're okay while we're playing, but my energy into it. And I know that sounds a little weird, but you might understand it because of the groups you're in. So I don't like to do that, and so it's not on demand. Or they'll call, I've had guys write me up. I want golden showers. I want this. I want that. Well, these are not necessarily things that are going to happen at a Club Femme party.
Not at a party.
But I had a gentleman that did ask for that, and it's very hard to squick me out. It really is. I have a pretty high squick threshold. You can pretty much tell me anything as long as it's not illegal. Well, BDSM is, but let's say it doesn't involve minors or innocent animals or things like that. And he wanted he wanted to play with Golden, and there's different ways to do this, and I've done that, but he wanted to consume, and it really isn't that bad a thing to do if the giver is healthy, and and I drink a lot of water, so we had.
Was he a straight from the source kind of guy? Or
Oh yeah,
oh yeah.
Like he just tapped right there. Like I'm just gonna tap that keg right here.
Oh yeah, he.
They'll seal their lips up on it and just be like.
No. It wasn't quite that way because we were not intimate. What I did was he had this funnel to serve a woman, and being a survivalist, I've got the female funnel to use out in the woods. So we had a non-Club Femme party, and I drank a lot of water, and I said, nature's calling, and he was quite happy to have our funnels meet, and he consumed everything. And of course, our executive mistress was still sitting there kind of squicked, although she was trying to hold her own, and he gave such a good explanation that he felt that I was giving a piece of me or a piece of my power for him to carry inside him, away. And, how it was very fulfilling to this gentleman. And I was happy to do it. I've had other situations where the act of peeing on someone is a dominant. What do animals do? They pee in places. I peed on a
their
sub.
territory.
Right, peed on a sub. And
I'm gonna piss on your leg the next time we go out.
next time that one's gonna clean the bathtub. It's hard work. Shower's better. You can wash it all away.
I'm just gonna lift my leg and pee on you right before we go into the club. Can be like mine.
We can do it outside in the backyard where everybody can see, and they'll all see you mark your territory.
There you go.
She thinks I'm joking. I'm okay with you peeing on me.
And I'm going to do it. What's your favorite fetish or scene to participate in?
Well, I'm a big voyeur. So it's Candyland when we have a Club Femme party, I have to tell you. And even the women, because, I like to watch the women too. And so I'm a big voyeur. And I try to be we're very mature about our parties. Look, none of us are 20 anymore. We've had children, whatever. And our mistresses come in all shapes and sizes, just like our boys. And I'm guilty of, we had one sub that was with one of my girlfriends, and he was wearing a towel. It was his first party, no less. And she was, in the kitchen, they have little aprons they can wear, which look really nice. They look like little tuxedo-type fronts, but because I don't want them burning the tender bits in the kitchen. But,
No frying the bacon.
But outside, they have whatever they're wearing, and there's set clothing to wear or not wear. And he had come down with a towel wrapped around him, and our executive mistress said, "Lose that towel," and yanked it off, and there was some serious talent underneath there, and I went, "Woohoo!" And I just, it was just...
Hashtag serious talent.
So I really, so I never quite lived that down, but I will admit to doing that freely.
You can't be ashamed of the fact when someone shocks you with something you're not expecting and you go, woo woo!
That's the beginning. Okay. Can we ask you a question about your slave that you brought?
He's a submissive. He's not a slave.
He's a submissive. Okay, so there's the...
You said there was a difference.
Yes.
Can you very quickly explain that difference?
Different people have different ideas. Where I come from, or in my theory, okay, and this is just my theory, a slave is much more, much more high maintenance goes into them because they're not making, you're running every aspect of their life. They have no rights to say no. They have the right to enter in and the right to exit. Mm-hmm. And so picture, and I'm going to say this, people, and this is my pet peeve in the lifestyle, that people jump into these relationships and they give a collar within, moments or whatever, and it really negates the meaning of this. This is a serious commitment. A BDSM relationship really requires truth, because you're doing some things that, unless you're truthful, some bad things can happen. And you're bearing, literally, your soul to that other person. We've got men that have fought wars or, run business empires, and here they are kneeling in front of us and, exposing their deepest fantasy, whether it's whether they want to scrub our floors wearing a pair of panties, or be whipped until there are welts, or we have men that want to be scared. I mean, or they want us to pee on them, or they want us to do something called pegging, which is a strap-on. And so these are things...
Do they want to be scared like you jump out from behind the back
No.
curtain?
They want to be scared as in, I might not leave this scene like I came in,
Okay.
I scared my submissive one day. He got to see the other side of me. Or I have something I call bad sadist. There's good sadist, which is out usually when I'm playing with people and smiling, and then there's bad sadist. And we did have a guy that brought out bad sadist in our group, and I have our executive mistress who although she looks pretty fearsome, she's the one that keeps the sanity,
So to get back to the difference between a slave and a submissive, the submissive you have talked to, you have made arrangements with, this is what it's going to be.
The
And
submissive will be running their own show. They're running
Right.
their own life, and they come to you, and it could be different things. It could be that they're submissive in nature, and they just come and scene with you for that period of time and leave, and we have men in our group like that. They don't necessarily want this to be their whole life, but I have one very dear sub that I love to play with, and he comes to our parties, and he plays for X period of time, and he's a wonderful submissive, and then he goes home and he's living his life. And then, we have ones that want that relationship, that true female-led relationship, and they might look like a man's man to the world. I'm not going to go around in my vanilla business and have, some guy there going, what is she with? So they've got to, it's a harder thing for me. They've got to be able to appear in public and blend into all my vanilla situations, and that's not something you're necessarily going to find. So a lot of male submissives are, they're successful business owners, executives in high-end companies, and but they just want to let go of it all. They want to, all they've got to think about. I think mine always said that he's got all these thoughts in his head, and when he gets in front of me, it's just
It's peace.
peace. Yes.
so we've
that's it.
only got a few minutes left. So if people want to experience Club Femme for themselves, they first have to come to a munch.
Right. You can find us on FetLife, which is a internet group geared for BDSM lifestyle type things.
Our listeners are familiar.
Okay.
What is the name of the group on FetLife?
Club Femme Las Vegas,
Okay.
and our next meet and mingle is April 10th, and all we ask is that, and I want to clarify this, if you're a switch or a, whatever you're thinking about, we ask that when you're at our groups that you be in the role of femdom if you're a female, or male sub if you're male. I mean sub if you're male. So that's really all we ask of you.
Do the other chapters in other cities also have groups on FetLife as well?
Absolutely.
So if you are in Florida, Vendetta,
Not that she's calling you out.
We have chapters in Florida, Maryland, New York, Texas, where our international headmistresses, and I'm very friendly with the headmistress in Maryland. Her subs have, a couple of subs from her chapter have come out, and I played with them.
she was telling me about this, and it's like transferring from work. You know what? I'm moving to Vegas, so put in for a transfer. You can put in for transfers. And one of the great things is that you've already vetted them here.
Right, so we can give a reference. I mean, they'll still probably vet you, but it's really quite nice. I mean, there are two adorable subs in the Maryland chapter that I know I'm going to get there eventually and play with them, but it's a really wonderful thing.
Do you have any chapters in Missouri?
I don't know, but if you go to clubfemme.com, you can look up all the chapters.
And that's FEMME, right?
No.
No?
Club, FEM.
Yeah.
FEM?
.com.
Okay.
Booyah!
Sorry.
We have about a minute left. Is there anything specific that you want any of our listeners to know about Club Femme?
We really love men. Female dominance is not about hating men or beating men up. It's about servitude, and it's not all about constantly, it's behavior modification or allowing the man to be in that submissive mode without being put down. We truly love men, and it's also about women who want to join together and form a sisterhood and have formed friendships. So that's the thing that made me like it. I've made some amazing friends in Club Femme.
You can, like she said, go to FetLife. You have to make an account there.
Yep.
And then go search for Club Femme, just one M, F-E-M, Las Vegas, to find the group here so you can attend their munch. And look for Club Femme Vegas. Is that what the name of it's going to be?
Las Vegas.
ClubFemmeVegas.com, right?
It's our website.
ClubFemmeVegas.com, coming soon
Right. We're
to the
finishing that up.
interwebs.
Yep. we'll be announcing that.
I feel like Munch is a tricky name, considering
is.
there's no sex that happens there.
No, but there was lots of nomming.
Thank you so very much for coming,
You are most welcome.
and hopefully we can have you back again because
Absolutely, I'd love to
we
be
need to
back.
have it back. I got
would
like 8
love
more
to
questions.
tell you.
I know.
an
I still
hour.
want-
I know you should
Just
have
to let
time.
you know, we've been around since 1992. This isn't something that happened a couple of years ago. It started in Texas, and we just grew from there.
I'm Alexia,
Miss Keller?
Toxie.
And Sierra,
and we will see you next week.
if you're brave enough.
Later, bitches!